Hey Aaron, can you hear me now? Just testing the interface and setup. Cool. Looks like we are all set for the YouTube live on Google Analytics 4. We were just waiting for a few more people to join. We still have like 4 minutes, so we'll wait for a few more people to join and then we'll get started. Hi Kiran. Two more minutes and we'll start. We have only one more minute and then we'll start. We have kind of enough audience, I guess. I hope you guys are able to hear me clearly. Arun, Kiran, is my voice loud enough for you guys? Great, thanks a lot. Cool. So it's 2 o'clock and we'll start with the Q&A session. So Hey, welcome everyone. This is Nikhil from MeasureEd, and this is the first Q&A session for Google Analytics 4 on MeasureEd YouTube channel. Google Analytics 4 is the biggest opportunity that marketers have to change the way they have been analyzing marketer data for ages. It changes everything that a marketer knows about Google Analytics. It's not even an upgrade of the product. I wouldn't call it's an upgrade from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics. It's more of a new product itself. If you want to know about Google Analytics 4, I think the first step everyone should take is unlearn the old Universal Analytics or Google Analytics as it was known. The concepts are completely different for Google Analytics 4. The definitions of matrix, definitions of dimensions, there are some dimensions which have completely disappeared. There are multiple dimensions which have shown up in the new interface. There are several other ways to set custom dimensions and custom matrix. Definition of session has practically been garbage in Google Analytics 4. And session was the entity around which everything revolved in Universal Analytics. So it's important that we actually forget some of the old concepts before we understand or even try to understand the new Google Analytics 4 concepts. To start with, I'll just quickly go through the questions, and I think there are a lot of questions here which deal with what is new in Universal Analytics, what is difference in Google Analytics versus Universal Analytics, etc. So for that, quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through a presentation of what is different or what is new in Google Analytics 4. But in the chat, I'll also place a link of video which kind of explains this in much detailed way, the differences between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics. But for now, let's quickly look at them with help of a presentation. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm just presenting this. Okay. For some odd reason, I'm not able to share my screen. But anyway, I'll just walk you through the presentation. I think the most important part that has changed with Google Analytics is events. Uh, with older version of Google Analytics, which was also known as Universal Analytics, you were constrained by events where you could only send data in three type of dimensions, which is event category, event action, and event label. In some cases, you could also send event value and event name as a default. But beyond that, you were highly constrained if you wanted to send more data variables, more information about event or user or anything like that. That changes drastically in Google Analytics 4. With Google Analytics 4, you are not constrained to three parameters, but also you are not constrained to the name of these parameters. You don't have to stick to category, action, label, and value. You can choose your own names for the parameters that you want to send. For example, if you are a gaming company and you want to have an event called level up, and in that you want to have parameter to which level user has graduated to, you can just send a parameter called level, and then value will be level 4, level 5, or level x, whatever that user is progressed to. So this is a big change, where you can customize the parameter name as well as send more than three parameters in every event. Now that brings us to questions: how many parameters can be sent in an event? You can send up to 25 parameters in any event for Google Analytics 4. 25 parameters is more than enough to cover any sort of complicated data that you are looking for. So that's the first advantage that you have with Google Analytics 4. The second advantage, I think, is it has evolved from the old world concepts of sessions. With invent of app and with invent of mobile technologies, I think sessions as a concept is kind of getting redundant. And to get to make sure that that is being counted for, what Google Analytics 4 has done is Google Analytics 4 has moved away from the concept of sessions, and it has become more user centric and event centric. When I say user centric and event centric, even in attribution, you will have attribution at the level of user as well as at the level of sessions, which will make sure that you can actually deep dive into data for user level analytics as well as their behavioral analytics at specific levels. So that's the second most important change that you have. Third most important change, I think, is about interface itself. Google Analytics, the older Google Analytics version, which is Universal Analytics, had a lot of pre-built reports for you in all the sections like audience, marketing, behavior, technographics, etc. There were multiple pre-built reports for you. But with Google Analytics 4, that changes. There are very few pre-built dashboards for you, but it gives great flexibility when it comes to creating your custom reports with help of Analytics Hub. Analytics Hub gives you multiple options of creating your report visualizations, as well as very simple drag and drop dimensions, filtering, or segmentation for that matter for your reports. So I think these three are the most important changes that Google Analytics 4 has brought about. It also has a lot of more it also gives a lot more important features as well as analytics when it comes to apps. Google Analytics 4 was sorry Google Analytics older version with Universal Analytics was quite limited when it came to behavior analytics of users on mobile apps, but Google Analytics 4 changes that considerably. And that is why, if you see, what Google has done is it has deprecated another product called Google Analytics App Plus Web Property, and it has evolved itself into Google Analytics 4. So it has considerably more advantages for Google Universe for mobile apps, which is iOS or Android apps. Along with that, it also has some inherent capabilities to track users across devices. So users can be tracked across devices from desktop to mobile to app, etc. I'm not saying this wasn't possible with Universal Analytics, but it makes it considerably easier and considerably easier to report with Google Analytics 4. I hope that kind of covers what is the major difference between Google Analytics and Google Analytics 4. But either way, what I'm doing to do is I'm just putting a link to one of the videos that I have created specifically on this subject. So you guys can go through it at your own time. Just give me a second. I'm just getting that. Here we go. This is the link. I can see there is a question from Mohit Sharma about what, according to you, could be the reason behind such a big update. Okay. So ideally, I would have loved to take up the questions which have already been submitted. But because this question is quite relevant to the topic that we were discussing before this, I'll take this up. I think if you look at digital analytics tools as a whole, Google Analytics always lagged when it came to event based analytics or mobile app analytics specifically. When you compare Google Analytics with tools like either Mixpanel or Adobe Analytics or Motamo or anything like that, I think they gave considerably more flexibility when it came to creating events, creating reports, and as well as event based analytics. Uh, Also, given the fact that there are so many changes happening in the ad ecosystem, especially when it comes to privacy and cookie policy, etc., anyway, it required every analytics will require a significant overhaul of how they collect data and how they present data. Uh, and that is the reason, I think, why it is that's the reason for the biggest change that we have seen. Also, when you consider that older Google Analytics practically has been there, say almost same for about 15 years now. Google acquired Urchin in 2005. Since then, there has not been a major change in any Google Analytics products since then. So from Urchin, it went to Google Analytics, which was hardly any change. Then it went to Universal Analytics. Again, there were some minor tweaks to the interface, but logically as well as the way data was collected and presented remained same. So it was due for an overall for a long time. Practically it has been a 15-year-old product. So it's great that finally Google has decided to change that. It's a great change, it's a positive change. We should all look at it as a positive change and learn as quickly as possible. I really don't think we are going to see end of Google Analytics older version in very near future, but in midterm, definitely there will be an end. It's not a question of if it will ever be deprecated, but when it will be deprecated. I'm sure it will be deprecated in midterm. If you see, since October 2020, Google hasn't released any new feature or new report type or anything like that with Universal Analytics, but it has released a bunch of stuff on Google Analytics 4. So that kind of gives you idea of what's coming. Cool. We'll move to our next question. There are a bunch of questions about differences between Google Analytics and Universal Analytics. Then, okay, there is a question from Anand about difference in Google Analytics and current version that I think I have already answered. Uh, Supplementary question to that is, how can you make sure that the discrepancy between Google Analytics and Google AdWords actually goes down? I don't think that's a question for Google Analytics 4 to answer. There will always be discrepancy between two systems. Whether you are using Google Analytics 4 or Universal Analytics or Adobe Analytics or Mixpanel or Motamo or anything like that, there will always be discrepancies between what your analytics platform reports versus what your advertiser reports. Advertiser will inherently report more conversions than your analytics platform will report, for two reasons. One is that advertiser doesn't have attribution knowledge of other platforms which may be driving traffic to your platform, and second is, of course, inherently it's better for an advertising platform to show better conversions and more conversions to you. So I don't think there is a way to actually nullify the difference between Google AdWords and Google Analytics. There are ways to minimize that, but more importantly, I think it's important to understand why there are differences, what are the thresholds of those differences, and basically learn to live with it. If you decide to fight those differences or keep working on those differences, I don't think that's a very productive use of anyone's time, because there is no way you can actually completely get rid of those differences. I hope that answers your question, Anand. How do you use Analytics Hub best? This is a question from Carolyn. Now, Carolyn, I'll try to share my screen again for this question. Give me a second, because I think this will be better with screen sharing. Okay, it's still not letting me share screen for some odd reason. Okay, cool. So I'll try to explain this without sharing the screen. Uh, I'm just opening Analytics Hub on my system. So Analytics Hub basically is kind of next version of what we used to have as custom reports or custom dashboards in Universal Analytics. The key difference here is that, one, the reporting interface in Universal Analytics forced you to create report before you could visualize it. That is not the case with Analytics Hub. You can visualize the report as you create it. As you drag and drop dimensions and metrics into the place for rows, columns, filters, or values, what you'll see is, on the right hand pane, you'll see those reports being created automatically, and you can make changes to them without really saving them and then coming back and editing them. So that's the most important change I think that has come from custom reporting to Analytics Hub. Also in Analytics Hub, there are multiple types of visualizations available. In If you look at in old custom reports, there are basically three or four type of visualizations available. But now what you have is exploration type, which is ideally meant for data analysis, large data analysis, where you can mash up multiple dimensions and multiple metrics to analyze either your campaign data, keyword data, landing page data, user segment data, or any data that has like more than like 100 rows or so. Second is segmentation overlap. Segmentation overlap is where you can create different type of audiences and you can see how many of those audiences overlap with each other. So you might create an audience for people in United States who have purchased product X, and people in uh, people worldwide who have purchased product Y, and there might be a segment which have overlap with that. So you can create multiple overlaps like this and understand the behavior of these cohorts. Funnel analysis, I think this is very important. In universal analytics, funnels were very rigid. You had to create goals and funnels in advance to make sure that you actually get the good visualizations on funnels as well as goals. With universal analytics, that changes. With Google Analytics 4, sorry, that changes. You can create on demand funnels whenever you want. You don't have to predefine goals whenever you want. Predefine goals before you define the funnels. You can define goals as well as funnels practically on the runtime. It gives you considerably more flexibility. With Universal Analytics, this option was available for paid users of Google Analytics 360, but this wasn't available for free users of Universal Analytics. And even for users of Google Analytics 360, there were multiple limitations to this. So that's the second part. Then there are other reports like path analysis, cohort analysis. Cohort analysis is an amazing new feature that has come up with. There are three types of calculations in this, and I'll be soon releasing a video on this. Look forward to that. And then you have user lifetime values as well. So I hope that answers your question broadly about Analytics Hub, but would love to do a dedicated video on analytics usage of Analytics Hub itself. Okay, let's go back to questions again. Okay, event migration. This is a question from my old friend Shanky. I hope Shanky you're here. He's asking about what is the process of migrating events from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics. I think conceptually, I really don't think I would call it a migration because of two reasons. These two systems are completely different. They have practically nothing in common. So, this is an opportunity for all of us to rethink our events from scratch. Ideally, what I would like to do is I would like to revisit my business measurement, business goals. What is my business measuring, and what is the most important metrics and dimensions for my business? And I would probably write the entire measurement plan again to make sure that we are actually capturing what is important for business rather than just continuing what was being captured in older version to new version. I don't think that's a good idea for two reasons. The older version had limitations, and because of which we probably wrote measurement plans which which would fall inside those limitations. Now those limitations are gone. So let's go back to drawing board. Let's build new measurement plans, and let's make sure that we actually create the most of the new limitless environment that we have got. So, to answer your question, Shanky, I really don't think you should think about migrating events. You should create entirely new measurement plan, entirely new event structure, new parameter structure, everything. Having said that, if you want to have mapping between old and new event to make sure that you actually have a uninterrupted timeline of those events for reporting. You can create that mapping somewhere offline just for the reporting purposes, but I don't think that should impact your measurement plan itself. Hope that answers your question, Shanky. We're going to next question. Okay, this is from Ishan, and Ishan asks me, got email from Google Analytics team regarding set it up now for new experience. I would like to understand new features that have been added. Uh, Ishan, as I have given a link and discussed this earlier, you can just visit the link for my video on what is new in Google Analytics and what has changed from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. I think that should answer your questions. But if still it doesn't answer your question, please feel free to comment and we'll try to make more videos for you. Hope that answers your question, Ishan. Then I have another question from Shathayan. How GA4 can help better analysis performance and take measured actions for growth? There are two parts to this question. I think for better analysis and measurement, as I said, Analytics Hub is a great resource that has come up in Google Analytics 4. It gives you considerable amount of reporting flexibility. It gives you a lot of in-depth reporting possibilities. Also, what you can do with Google Analytics 4 is you can actually export your raw data to BigQuery. This wasn't possible with Universal Analytics. With Universal Analytics, this feature was only available to select few people who could afford Google Analytics 350, which costed probably upwards of $75,000 a month. And not a lot of us can, sorry, not month, but a year. And not a lot of us can actually afford that kind of money. So that's a great feature here for analysis as well as measurement. You can export all of your raw data to BigQuery, and then from there either you can write queries if you are proficient with that, or using third party softwares you can actually create dashboards out of BigQuery raw data as well. That I think is a great opportunity for all the marketers to look at raw data for the first time. Most of the marketers who didn't have access to GA360 never looked at raw data at event level, how each event is recorded in Google Analytics at event ID and user ID level. We have never seen that data, most of the marketers. This is a great opportunity. I think you should set up a BigQuery project and try to export some dummy data in it. I'm also in process of making a video of how to do that. So hopefully if that comes out quickly, I'll send you the link as well. I hope that answers your questions broadly about measurement and how do you analyze data in a better way. Okay, from Vikrant, we have a question about how to track e-commerce events in GA4 with existing Universal Analytics enhanced e-commerce data layer setup. Now, Vikrant, if you see, there are two ways to go about it. One is you can change the data layer naming, basically. Give me a second. Sorry about that. What has changed with e-commerce data layer for GA4 is not really the parameters. So there are no new parameters or there are no additional parameters as such. If you look at it, what has happened is they have just changed names of some of the parameters. For example, what used to be called products in Universal Analytics is now called items. So it should be fairly easy to change that code in your data layer. But if you or your client do not want to do that, or are limited by some system limitations or bandwidth limitations to make that change, you can always write a custom code in GTM to change those data layer names and then use them in GA4. It's not the best way forward. Ideally, you should make changes in data layer itself to make sure that it's scalable and it doesn't break with any other future updates. But if you are limited by either bandwidth or system limitations at this point of time, as I said, you can just go ahead and make those changes to data layer variables in GTM and go forward with that for now as a hack. because there are no additional parameters in enhanced e-commerce instrumentation for GA4. There are same parameters, but some of the parameters have changed their keys or names. Hope that answers your question, Vikrant. Vikrant, if you are here, give me a thumbs up so I can know that I have answered your question. Okay, Nihal asks about what are new benchmarks which marketers should be focusing on. Okay, now this is, I don't think this really is a question for Google Analytics 4. So I'll try to answer it briefly without really investing a lot of time on it. Uh, I don't think basic marketing metrics will change or dimensions will change. So your normal CPC, conversion rate, CPA, CAC, etc. Those metrics and dimensions will remain same. Google Analytics 4 just makes it easier for you to measure them, makes it easier for you to dashboard them. But matrix and dimensions wouldn't change, at least in short term. Uh, Now coming to benchmarks, it's very hard to define benchmarks. Benchmarks vary at industry level, vertical level, geography level, even the marketing channel level, etc. So it's kind of hard to explain this in one line or in short term. Uh, and also it doesn't really necessarily has anything to do with Google Analytics 4, but I hope I was able to do justice to your question in the little time that we have. Okay, there are a bunch of other folks who want to understand Google Analytics 4 better. Well, my advice is to just keep watching the channel. We'll be uploading bunch of videos over next few weeks. We'll also be launching a course on Google Analytics 4 soon. So keep looking forward to it, and we'll keep you updating. There will be at least 3-4 videos every week we'll be updating on this channel about new features or how to use Google Analytics 4. How does the new dashboard work? Okay, this is the question from Pooja. Now, Pooja, there are, as I said before, that Google Analytics has cut down considerably on multiple dashboards, pre-built dashboards that it had in Universal Analytics. But it has given you a considerable flexibility to create your own dashboards with Analysis Hub. Now, with Analytics Hub, you can create whatever you want. You don't have to rely on pre-built dashboards. In fact, since I have started using Google Analytics 4, I have barely touched the pre-built dashboards that they have. Every time I need to analyze my campaign, I have created a bunch of reports in Analytics Hub, and I just keep changing dates and checking them out. So dashboarding, I think, is considerably more flexible as well as customizable now with Google Analytics 4. I hope that answers your question. Okay, there is a question from Charles, which is about being updated on new algorithms. So I'm not sure which algorithms you are actually suggesting, but when it comes to Google Analytics 4, this is a good news. There are a few algorithms which are coming in. So with Google Analytics 4, there are a lot of new algorithms with AI and ML that have come in. Some of them are, one is churn prediction. So churn prediction is an algorithm that has come up in GA4, where this is great for subscription businesses or SaaS businesses, etc., where you have regularly paying users. Now, in that, even for OTT platforms for that matter, now in that, based on your current data for last X months or something like that, Google Analytics 4 will be able to predict what is the most which users have most probability of churning from your platform. And I say churn, which is basically they leaving your platform. Now, based on this, you can actually create a lot of actionable marketing points here. You can create different campaigns for these users. You can create pain points, or you can understand pain points of these users to make sure that they don't leave, or you actually negate the use cases of this churn entirely for product managers. I think Just like that, there is also another algorithm which predicts the purchase probability of users within next week. And I'm sure Google Analytics is going to come up with multiple more probabilistic approaches for predictions with Google Analytics 4. Hope that answers your question, Charles. Uh, okay, from Navdeep, we have a bunch of questions. In fact, three questions. Do you think Google Analytics 4 is going to play an important role in cookie-less world? Okay. Now, cookie-less world is a completely different topic. Currently, if you see Google Analytics 4, it still uses cookies to track users. But it also has some inherent capabilities where if user has denied access to cookies, Google Analytics 4 kind of fills in those gaps using some user signal data as well as some historical learning and their AI algorithms. So yeah, I mean, right now, especially in India, Southeast Asia, and Asia as a whole, there are not a lot of people who are actually denying use of cookies. But if you are actually your customers are in Europe or North America, where that percentage is considerably higher, and eventually, I'm sure it will penetrate into Asia as well. In that case, I think this is an important part from GA4, that probabilistically GA4 will be able to push some data together for you for people who have denied use of cookie as well. Hope that answers your question. Second question from Navdeep is what we are going to miss as marketers in unit from older version, and how do you bridge the gap? I think I honestly wouldn't miss anything. Right? I love Google Analytics 4 new interface and measurement capabilities. But just to answer your question, I think one thing that some of us will miss is one, bounce rate. There is no bounce rate in Google Analytics 4, but there is a way to substitute that with other metrics. So I'll just post one of my video links which talks about that, as well as there are no goal convergence at URL level, which used to be the most important or popular feature in Google Analytics 4. But again, that is also possible with a little bit of customization and little bit of workaround. I have also created a video on that which I'll post in the chat immediately after answering this question. Hope that answers your question, Navdeep. I really don't think there is something that I'm going to miss a lot from Universal Analytics. What is the most important feature? uh, I think I have answered this earlier, but I'll just quickly brief you. Event event schema is the most important features. You can send up to 25 parameters. It's an amazing freedom that you have now, and getting out of that category action label kind of scenario. Now you can send anything you want. I'm just putting links to the videos for page-based goal analytics, as well as some other systems, some other videos that I have created. Just a second. Hold on and bear with me for a moment, guys. Here is video for creating page-based goals, and another one I'll probably post later, and I'll just go through the questions quickly. Next question is from Gaurav. Gaurav asks, how do users adapt to GA4 quickly, considering they are used to standard GA measurement features? Uh, I started a call with this specific advice to everyone, that the first step of learning GA4 is to unlearn Universal Analytics. There is no way if to learn Google Analytics 4 without really unlearning Universal Analytics 4, because as long as you have Universal Analytics in back of your mind, you will try to force fit those concepts into GA4, or you will try to find parallels to those concepts in GA4, which wouldn't work. Essentially, this is an entirely new system and you have to treat it as such. So unlearn universal analytics and start GA4 from scratch with fresh mind, without any prejudice, without any hang-ups or hangovers from universal analytics. And I think that should be it. And just keep yourself updated with my blog. Cool. Next question we are going to go ahead with is we are almost coming to end of the questions that have been submitted. What about tracking, goal tracking and alternative page views? This question was by Samir. So Samir, I have just pasted a link here which actually shows you how to create page-based goals or conversions in GA4. So go through that. It's a very simple process. You can go through it, and if you have any questions on that, post a comment on the same video, and I'll respond to it within few hours. Okay, while we are taking the questions, we also have a live question from Swapnil. Thanks a lot for joining, Swapnil. Can we move to GA4 right away, or should we give it some time? Great question, Swapnil. This is this, and I have pasted one link about this in the start of the chat, but I'll send it again. Basically, this is a question for which each marketer is grappling with for quite a while now. But I think what matters here is not really moving away from universal analytics quickly, but gradually moving towards GA4, using GA4 and universal analytics together for probably a quarter or so, which is a bit of a headache, I know, but you have to live with it for a quarter until GA4 catches up completely with all the features. I know there are some features which are still missing. Multi-channel funnels is not really as robust as it should be. There are some other features which are also, I think, in development. But in a quarter or so, GA4 should be up to speed with UA4 for all the features. And then you can turn off UA4 and move to GA4, or you can keep tracking both for some time to make sure that you actually have parity between timelines for comparing features. Here is the video for UA versus GA4. Here we go. Hope that helps you, Swapnil. We'll go back to the submitted questions. I want to know how to use params in events in Google Analytics 4 is the question. So as I have explained, there are multiple options to use params and freedom to use parameters in universal analytics, where you can send up to 25 parameters in each event for Google Analytics. But the most important part is the process to create those params. Just sending those params in event is not enough. You have to create those params in interface as custom dimensions as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste another video for that, which I have already created for specifically for event creation and event reporting. Take a look at that video, and if you find any questions about it, please do comment, and I will be answering those. Usually I answer in few hours. So event params. Here we go. I hope that answers your question, Kiran. Okay, so Kiran, I think you have a follow-up question. I can see list of GA4 events under engagement. I also want to view related parameters for each event. How to access view parameters in engagement events? So Kiran, you can't access those parameters in engagement events. What you'll have to do is you will have to create a custom report in your analytics hub. I would suggest that you create a exploration type report where you can drag and drop event name as well as parameters. I have also explained how to do that in this video as well. Take a look at that. And as I said, if you have more questions, just do comment and I'll be right there. Okay, so next question we have is what is new in GA4 from Sandeep? I think Sandeep, I have already answered this question a couple of times during this session. So I really wouldn't want to bore everyone by repeating same questions again and again. Okay, so Kiran got his answer. Thanks a lot, Kiran, for that. I hope you got the solution. Now we have come to an end of questions which have already been submitted. But if any one of you have any questions right now, I'll just quickly go through the questions which are there in chat, which I think I have missed some of them. There is a question from Carolyn, which I can see. Where do I find keywords? Google Search Console report. Google Search Console, I don't think is yet integrated with Google Analytics 4 as of now. You can integrate Google AdWords, but Search Console, I don't think so. I'll check for the update again, and I'll probably publish a video on that as well. But like a couple of weeks ago when I checked, it wasn't the integration wasn't yet possible. So that is something that you probably have to wait on. But anyway, I'll check for the update and post a video about that as well. Hope that answers your question, Carolyn. I guess I have covered all of the questions from pre-submitted questions as well as questions from the chat as well. If there are any more questions, I can stay live for a few minutes, and then I can answer those questions. Great to know, Carolyn, that you got your answer. Mm, cool. Thanks a lot, Swapnil. Thanks, Carolyn. Thanks, Kiran. Thanks, Arun. Arun has been instrumental in setting up this session. Okay, I guess we have come to an end of our all questions that we had. But do subscribe to the channel and keep yourself updated with Google Analytics 4, and not only Google Analytics 4, but all MarTech related changes that we'll be publishing videos on. We're soon coming up with trainings for MarTech tools such as Google Analytics 4, AdWords, Facebook, SEO, and lot more. So keep looking forward to that. We'll keep you posted. Thanks a lot again, guys, for joining the session. This was the first session, and I didn't really expect that these many people will show up. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks, Carolyn. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and keep yourself safe. Don't wander around a lot outside. The second wave is at least coming back in India. I'm not sure about other countries. So be safe and enjoy. Thanks a lot for joining. Bye bye.